Let's play a little game of What Am I? So I'm thinking of a television program, and I want to give you a little clue and see if you can work out what the name of that show is. The show is hosted by a man called Jay Blades, along with a team of other craftsmen and craftswomen. Their names are Jay, Will, Steve, Dominic, Susie, Kirsten, and Amanda. They receive old items which are in disrepair, maybe damaged, or perhaps broken, or else just very, very old, and they repair them and they make them as good as new. I wonder, have you got it? I wonder, have you seen it? Well, the TV program is called The Repair Shop, and maybe there's somebody who brings in something that they've had for a long, long time and it's got damaged or broken, and they're looking to have it fixed. Maybe it's a childhood teddy bear, and maybe the arm has got ripped off it, it's worn away, and maybe there's an eye missing, and they're looking for it to be fixed and repaired so that they can preserve it or pass it on to somebody else in the family. It'll be taken by those craftsmen and they'll work hard at it, they'll work diligently on it, and they'll make it just as good as new. Sometimes people will bring along old clocks or watches, maybe a clock which hasn't chimed for years. It'll be dismantled and it'll be cleaned up and it will be set working just as good as it was on the day that it was bought. Or maybe it'll be a piece of ceramic or pottery or a painting, and maybe it's got smashed or damaged or a hole punched through it. And they will use their skills and specialized techniques, and they will bring those items back as good as the day that they were bought. Even pieces of pottery or pieces of wood which were so badly damaged that you think that there's no way it could be reassembled, but they reassemble it and touch it up with a little bit of paint, and you can't even see the seams or the joints. They take broken things and they fix them. And maybe you're very aware of things which are broken, because maybe there are some broken things in your house or even broken things in your life. I mean, let's think about some things which can be broken. Maybe it's toys. Maybe there's a toy that you got for Christmas or even for your birthday. You so enjoyed playing with it that you played with it day after day, but after some time that toy it's got broken. Maybe a little part has broken off it. Maybe it just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't do the things that it's supposed to do. It's broken and therefore it's of no use. Or maybe you had built up a great big Lego set. You'd followed the instructions, you opened them out of their packets and you built it according to the plan. But something happened and it got knocked off the shelf or knocked off a table onto the floor and it broke into 1,000 pieces. There's all the pieces all in a little pile now. It's broken and it needs to be repaired. Toys very often can get broken. Or maybe hearts. Hearts can be broken. Maybe you know what it is to have a broken heart. Maybe someone in your family, they have died and you feel so sad as you think about it. Or maybe mommy and daddy are no longer together anymore and that makes your heart sad. Maybe you're heartbroken and you know something about that and the sadness that that can bring into your life. Broken hearts, that's a sad thing. Or what about broken promises? Sometimes people can make a promise with good intentions, really with a desire to fulfill the promise that they had made. Perhaps that was always their intention, but sometimes things can happen in people's lives and they can't fulfill exactly what they had said. Maybe your mum and dad said to you at the weekend they're going to take you ice skating, and you were so excited and you were so looking forward to it. But then, whenever Saturday came, someone in the house wasn't well and you weren't able to go out. Your parents had made you a promise that that's where you would go, but because sickness had come into the family, you weren't able to make the trip. And therefore, it was just as if the promise had been broken. And you know how sad that made you. But also, relationships can be broken. Maybe you can think back whenever you were in primary school, in your early days in primary school, maybe you had a best friend, someone that you played with every day. Maybe someone that you sat with in the class and maybe you played out in the playground, but maybe something happened. Maybe you fell out or you had an argument, or maybe your best friend had to move house or move school, and you no longer see or speak to that person anymore, and that relationship is now broken. You no longer hear from them, and that too is sad. When things are broken, it can bring an awful lot of sadness, and very often a desire to want things to be put right or put back to the way that they once were. The Bible also tells me that your relationship with God, it too is broken. It all began way back in the Garden of Eden, whenever God created a man and a woman, Adam and Eve, put them in the garden with just one rule: don't eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because the day you eat of that tree, the day you eat that fruit, then you will surely die. Because sin will have come into the world, sin will have affected your relationship with God, and death would pass upon all men. Because Adam took that fruit, and because he ate of it, sin came into his life, sin came into the world, and sin has affected everything. Now the relationship with God, it's broken. Adam and Eve couldn't have the same relationship with God after they ate the fruit, the same relationship that they had before, because the relationship was damaged, it was broken, and it needed to be repaired. Just the same way that whenever you're born, the Bible says, you're born in sin and you're shapen in iniquity. The Bible says in Romans chapter 3 and verse 23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. God very clearly says that you have sinned. You break his rules. You break his laws. Maybe there are times in your life whenever you get jealous of things that people have. You see something that your friend has, and then you want it. You covet that thing. And the Bible says that coveting, that's breaking one of his rules. That's examples of sin. There are times whenever you're disobedient, you don't do what you have been asked to do, or you say, no, I don't want to do that, and you're stubborn. The Bible says that doing those things are examples of sin in your life. There are times whenever you don't put God first, you don't consider him, you don't think about him, you don't praise and worship him. And the Bible says that him and him alone should be worshipped. Whenever you don't do those things, that's an example of sin. There are times whenever you maybe lose your temper and use God's name as a swear word. And God says in his Bible that you shouldn't use his name in vain. Don't use it in a wrong way out of its context. Whenever you do that, the Bible says it's an example of sin. And because you can see those examples in your life, and because God has said it, therefore it's true. You have been born with that problem of sin. That has broken your relationship with God. It's your sin that keeps you from out of heaven. And it's that relationship that needs to be fixed, that needs to be mended, or that needs to be repaired. That's why Jesus came to planet Earth, why he was born as a baby, born as a human, as a man, lived a perfect life, done no wrong, but yet died on the cross at Calvary. There, whenever he was dying on the cross, he took the punishment from God for your sin. And because Jesus today is alive, that shows that he has the power to forgive your sin and to cleanse you from all unrighteousness. If you were to ask for forgiveness and say, God, I'm sorry for the wrong things I have done. Thank you for sending Jesus to take my punishment. Will you forgive me? God has promised that he will do it, and that he will do it straight away, and he will mend that relationship between you and him. Listen to what it says in the book of Romans. Romans chapter 5 and verse 10. For if, when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more, being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. Romans chapter 5 and verse 10 says that the way that your relationship with God can be mended is through the death of his Son, through the death of Jesus. That's the only way to have that relationship fixed. Although there are people who take all of those different items to the repair shop and those craftsmen are able to do wonderful things to make it look as good as new. The only way to have your relationship with God fixed is through Jesus. Through Jesus and through Him alone. His death on the cross is what has made it possible for you to be reconciled unto God, or for your relationship to be fixed or mended. Not only through His death, but you're saved by His life. If Jesus stayed dead, if He was dead today, and if we could go to a cemetery and visit His body, then He would be unable to save or to rescue anyone. Jesus had to come back to life again. He had to take up His life, and because He's alive today, that shows that He has the power to forgive your sin, and God was happy with that sacrifice of His Son on your behalf. So I wonder today, as you think about things that are broken, that you would like to have mended, I wonder, do you think about your relationship with God? Because it is possible for that relationship to be mended today, just by calling upon the name of the Lord, and you shall be saved.